Hello everyone, my name is Vignesh. My metric number is 262481. So today I want to explain about four type of question from the subject building facility system. First of all, what is water supply and why it is important to building. Water supply system facilities for gathering, transmitting, treating, storing and distributing water for households, industry and irrigation as well as public needs including firefighting and street flushing. The availability of potable water is probably the most critical of all municipal services. Water is used for drinking, cooking, cleaning, eliminating waste, and other household uses. Water supply networks must also be able to meet the needs of public, private, and industrial users. Water must meet both quality and quantity specifications in all situations. Water supply, sewerage and drainage are just critical as the base, brickwork and RCC slab laying in the construction of a house. In general, it is found that certain homeowners do not give these activities the attention they deserve. If you disregard proper water supply and sewerage by using inferior materials or hiring an inexperienced plumber, you can face serious problems as stated below. There may be a leak causing damage to the plaster, paint and woodwork. Owing to dampness, the building appearance can be quite poor. It's likely that there's a stench problem. Owing to a blockage in the water source and shower, the house owner is inconvenienced. Due to a blockage in the sewer pipe, polluted water could spread on the toilet floor. Leakage and dampness shorten the existence of a system. The foundation could be harmed as a result of the leak. The cost of repairing the leak is high because it requires breaking the mortar, brickwork and flooring. Since dampness occurs over a wide area, it can be difficult to detect a leak in some situations. The issues listed above can have an effect on pupils' life. Second question is type of water sources. Groundwater, surface water and rainwater are the three major sources of water. Next there's a groundwater. Its presence is mainly determined by the form of rock. Water and other fluids will move through and be kept inside the rock structure since permeable rocks have tiny gaps between the solid rock particles. Groundwater is retained in these layers of rock. Second, there is surface water. Owing to factors such as geology, environment and surrounding land use, the quality and quantity of surface water varies from one location to another and over time. The third factor is rainwater. Rainwater can be a good source of water for individuals, families and small communities in areas where rainfall is plentiful and regular. Rainwater storage is especially critical in places where there is a long dry season or where groundwater or surface water is scarce or contaminated. Take for instance Malaysia, desalination, which is the removal of salts from water, is also used to produce drinking water in arid regions where seawater is available, such as the Middle East. Treated wastewater is another possible source of water. The third question is type of water resources in Malaysia and its problem. Streams and rivers with and without impounding reservoirs contribute 98% of total water used in Malaysia. The remainder is contributed by groundwater. River flow regimes are irregular and to secure safe yield from surface water source, storage facilities were constructed. Currently there are 47 single-purpose and 16 multi-purpose dams with a total storage capacity of 25 billion. The main reason for the lack of groundwater use in the country is the easy availability of surface water resources. There are over 150 river systems in Malaysia. The main issues and challenges facing the Malaysian water sector which affect the sustainability of development, allocation of water among users and the efforts of the people to achieve a better living are briefly discussed below. First of all, institutional and legal issues. There is no single agency in the country entrusted with the overall responsibility of holistic planning and management of water. Conflicts in water resources management such as allocation of water rights, flood management, pollution control, environmental protection and etc. are resolved through interagency coordinated and consultation. However, at the federal level, the National Water Resources Council (NWRC) has been set up to pursue a more effective water management, including the implementation of interstate water transfers. Malaysia suffers from a plethora of sector-based water laws both at federal and state levels and from the lack of a comprehensive water law. At present, water legislation is contained within the laws that are enforced by the various water-related government agencies, and many of these laws are outdated, redundant or ambiguous. This diversified water legislation focuses on limited aspects of water resources and water supply directly related to the responsibilities of the respective government agencies and thus difficult to enforce effectively. The second one is increased competition for water. Over the last 3 decades, population and GDP growth have resulted in a high demand for water. Due to rural-urban migration and increasing urbanization, the issue of population growth is felt most acutely in urban areas. The government's ability to respond to infrastructure and service needs as well as provide the environmental conditions needed for better living has been stretched by the exponential growth of urban population. The infrastructure for collecting, treating and disposing of sewage and solid waste is frequently insufficient to handle the volumes produced. Water and air pollution, public health and urban environmental degradation are all concerns that occur as a result of this situation. Increased demand for the small and dwindling supply of clean water available has resulted in rivalry among numerous water users, a competition that continues to be exacerbated by continued economic development. Furthermore, since the readily accessible portion of water supply has already been built for use in virtually all major water demand regions, potential water resource growth would necessitate the building of additional storage dams. These are not only expensive to construct, but they also come at a high environmental expense. Furthermore, in some high demand areas, the possible limit of surface water supply production has been reached, necessitating the consideration of interbasin and interstate surface water transfer schemes. After that, environmental degradation. The development of public utilities such as water supply, sewerage and urban drainage and flood mitigation programs help to promote economic growth and improve the quality of life. However, this economic development and the resulting rapid urbanization and industrialization have given rise to problems of increased water pollution. The main source of organic water pollutions are domestic and industrial sewage, effluent from palm oil mills, rubber factories and animal husbandry. Mining operations, housing and road development, logging and clearing of forests are major causes of high concentration of suspended sediments in the rivers. In several urban and industrial areas, organic pollution pollution of water has resulted in environmental problems and adversely affected aquatic life. In addition to organic wastes, rivers remain a convenient means of solid waste disposal. A major portion of household refuse which is not collected, burned or buried find its way into drains and rivers. In the Klang Valley, an estimated 80 tons of waste end up in the river system every day. River water quality and pollution control need to be addressed urgently since 98% of total water used originate from the river. Almost all the investment in water-related infrastructure depends on the reasonable river water quality. The next is low efficiency of water use. Efficiency of water use in general is low. Irrigation efficiency is in the range of 40 to 50% because almost all of the irrigation systems are open systems designed to take advantages of flooding. As irrigation water is charged on a per area basis rather than on volume used and is relatively cheap, there is little incentive for farmers to use the water efficiently. There is also a high proportion of unaccounted for water in urban water supply systems, as 1/4 to 1/3 of the domestic and industrial water is lost before it reaches the consumers. These losses are the result of leaks in the distribution systems and of illegal connections. As the physical limits of water supply are being reached, more emphasis is now placed on reducing the losses and increasing the net supply through improved efficiency in water use. The last point is increased expectation of the pupil. Malaysia has experienced rapid economic and social growth since independence, which combined with improved education has raised people's aspiration of higher living standard. Flooding and water shortages are no longer considered natural hazards to be suffered and embraced. At the same time, environmental consciousness has increased in the region, as evidenced by an increase in the number of public complaints about pollution. This represents a rise in the number of pollution sources as a result of increased economic activity or the encroachment of new housing areas around existing factories or industries, as well as greater understanding of the dangers of pollution. People's rising aspiration would place greater demands on water supplies, both in terms of water supply and pollution control. With increased demand from population growth and industrialization vying for dwindling water supplies, the need for efficient and effective water usage as well as conservation and sustainability becomes more urgent. And the final question is technology that can be implemented to solve the problem of water contamination in Malaysia. The most serious problem is the disruption of our water supply, which has serious implications for the economy and culture. There should be a long-term solution to the issue. The reality is that there is a solution to the dilemma. The solution lies in deploying the appropriate technology which is already in place and commonly used in developed countries. The country's water treatment system is unable to remove certain contaminants, especially untreated chemicals which are dumped near industrial premises, says the problem statement. Any suggestion of high emission levels as calculated by the Odor 3 Sol would cause water operators to shut down their treatment system. This is done to keep toxins out of the water supply delivery system. The entire water supply is impaired as a result, which can have a negative impact on the economy and culture. Such contaminants can be removed using validated membrane and electrochemical technologies. However, they are more costly than conventional water treatment methods. There is a way to hold their costs down. We should implement such technologies on a standby basis to reduce any surge in emission levels at the water intake stage, rather than implementing them as a permanent feature in the normal treatment scheme. As the odor sensors detect dangerous level of contaminants, the raw water source would be redirected to a sophisticated treatment facility for pre-treatment before continuing on to the regular system. This will mean that there will be no interruption in the supply of water. The advantages of this method greatly outweigh the cost of its implementation. Our water delivery system has been disrupted far too often. It's past time for water operators to employ the most up-to-date technologies to address the issues caused by water polluters. We can't rule out of the possibility of unintentional pollutant releases. There are few options for recouping the cost of putting such a device in place. One answer is to make polluting business responsible for it. The other choice is to make all businesses that work with potentially polluting chemicals pay for the whole new scheme. Water supply disruptions can be a thing of the past in this manner. That's all from me. Thank you so much.